Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be going over all of the starters in Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. We're going to go over how to obtain each of them, since there are different dialogue options that will affect which starter you are given. We're going to break down each of them according to their stats and movesets and whatnot. Then we're going to go into which one is the best. So as per the usual, sit back, relax, let's dive in. Okay, so in Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince, you are given a choice of one of 4 starting monsters based on how you answer a series of questions at the beginning of the game. If you answer the questions no and then no again, you will be offered Platypunk, this cute little Furby looking guy. Stat-wise, Platypunk sort of plays like a bulky attacker that can stun enemies via its traits, which makes stuns more common. This, coupled with its main talent, Naturalist, which will give it access to some stun-inducing skills such as Warcry and Tongue Bashing, cements it as a solid physical attacker with a little bit of a stunning kick, if you will. Also, don't let the fact that it's a G rank fool you, like it did for me for the beginning of my playthrough. Its max attack is somewhere around 600, which is quite high even compared to some of the higher tier monsters. Next, we get the Fright Bulb, which can be obtained by selecting yes and then yes again. The Fright Bulb acts as a somewhat well-rounded support, with it being a little lackluster in HP but making up for it in MP. It gets access to the Soothsayer talent, which comes with it a variety of supporting moves like heal, some debuffs for the enemies, and a buff for your allies. I originally used this one in my demo playthrough, and do have to say it's a very good support if you're just starting out and don't know which monsters will act as healers, since buffs and healing is very important when it comes to this game. Its traits give it some stun and evasion utility as well. Next up, we have the Cruel Cumber, which in my opinion is the strangest and creepiest of the bunch. It's got some relatively rounded stats too, with a rather low HP but decent attack and MP. This guy's got some interesting traits. The level 1 trait actually can cause stun when taking incoming damage from enemies, and its subsequent trait allows for an easier time inflicting debuffs. If you do get it all the way to level 40, which you'll probably have synthesized it by then, but if you do, it also gets an ability that allows for more explosive damage as well. Its talent, Blowy Slasher, is also really good in that it gives you access to early spread damage with Whoosh, and you can upgrade it by combining it with some of the other slasher traits when you decide to synthesize. The Cruel Cumber can be obtained by selecting yes, then no again. Finally, we have the Mud Mannequin, which can be obtained by selecting no, then yes again. The Mud Mannequin is sort of like a trickster in that it has a few different interesting aspects to it. One of its later traits allows it to essentially debuff all of the enemy's major stats when it's hit with a fatal blow, and its talent Dancer allows it to strip MP off of its enemies and even damage enemies at random. This one would be good if you're looking for a monster that's a bit of a wild card. That said, this one does get a pretty good physical attack stat, good MP, and is balanced otherwise. Now, which one of these is the best? Ultimately, it's going to depend on preference. It's not like any of these monsters are going to single-handedly sweep the game without any sort of preparation, but what I will say is that a lot of people on the forums, Discord, and even my boy Barry Bandit here on YouTube are saying that the Cruel Cumber is the best. This actually makes a lot of sense to me because it does have a really good talent in Blowy Slasher, in that not only is the talent something that could be fused later to create stronger talents, but it also gives access to spread damage at its second tier, which is something that isn't super available right away. Its more balanced attack and wisdom also give it a bit of extra utility and versatility when using it as well. When it gets its level 20 trait, it can also debuff enemies more easily, which is going to be really useful against those pesky boss monsters that have really crazy resistances. What I will say, however, is that while in many monster taming games, the starter choice is something that acts as a major commitment, that's not really the case here. You are more likely than not going to be synthesizing your starter pretty early on, so don't feel like you have to choose the perfect starter, and don't be afraid to synthesize it for a stronger monster down the line. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the video. I do hope this guide was useful for you, and if you do want more Dragon Quest Monsters content, or just a fan of monster taming games in general, definitely subscribe to the channel because I put out new videos every single day. You can check out my Twitter, Discord, Patreon as well. And special thanks to our supporters, especially Jim Hamilton, Droghost, Candy Marunci, and Tragsoft, and we'll see you next time. Peace.